Steadily it rises.
Hey, it's the Lincoln Addict back with another episode. We're going to review this 61 Lincoln Continental Convertible. I think it's going to appeal to a lot of people. We'll talk about why. But before we get to that, I do want to mention, of course, if you are a return viewer on this channel, you know I cover a lot of these cars. Most of the listings for the 60s Lincolns basically want to reinforce the Lyndon Johnson car sold for about $28,000 more than it did about a year and a half ago. So it went for $200K. And the 68 sedan, I believe I did a listing review on it as well. Pretty strong price at $21,000. So we're still seeing some strong prices. I am going to hopefully do a review on this red 67 convertible, but I'd like to turn our attention right now to the 61 that I mentioned a moment ago. It's been out there a few days. I have spoken to this gentleman, I believe his name is Raul, a couple of times. Seems like a really nice guy. Other than speaking with him on the phone a couple times, no connection to him other than an Instagram follow back and forth. Speaking of Instagram, you can go out, if you're on Instagram, that platform, Retro Cars for Sale. This is Raul's account, my understanding, and you'll see the car here. That's where, for some time, I've been following him, and he's got some other photos on here that you may be able to see that possibly aren't on this listing. But I want to bring a trailer the kudos because when Raul had reached out to me to say, hey, I'm thinking about selling this car, 99% of the time I refer people to Bring a Trailer. I say, hey, this is really the platform. It really beats trying to sell a car via social media. I'll just leave it at that because you just run into different challenges and you know what you're getting for the most part here, and then you can always have someone check it out, or you could fly up and check it out if that's what you want to do. My feedback is always get eyes on a car if you can. So a little bit of a longer intro, but this is a 61. I think this is going to appeal to a lot of people because it's slightly customized. Now, I do believe it's more customized than most, so that slightly, probably that needle probably goes up a little bit more, but some folks would argue this is not a full-blown resto mod because it does have the original 430, but you're going to see it has a lot of kind of bells and whistles to it that cost money, and if you're looking for a car that's semi-customized, this potentially is it for you. So basically, he's had it for about 5 years. We'll get into some of the factory colors. It's got a sound system, decoded digital gauges. Of course, it's got the 430 with the factory trans. One of my favorite things it has Colorado custom wheels. I have 17s on my car. This car has 18s, and I think they look great. Of course, in 61, you had a wider factory white wall tire, and this one also retains that kind of wider white wall, if you will. They talk about some of the factory finishes here, and there's a tear in the top that we're going to see. Paint chips are also pictured along with a bubble, so there's a few imperfections in the paint, but like I say, oftentimes these cars are going to need something, if not a lot, but I think this car is pretty well equipped. It does have adjustable suspension, so we'll talk about that. It has a Devious Customs kit, which is what I always recommend. We can see it's a 61 here because of the venting system for the air conditioner. I haven't talked a lot about that because I haven't got to that yet on my podcast, but the 61 definitely has a few key items that are kind of 1 year only, if you will. Now, speaking of that, I want to reinforce that if we jump over to my spreadsheet, we know in 61 there were 25,164 Lincolns produced, just over 22,000 sedans, 2,850 convertibles, and if I remember correctly, that's the lowest amount of convertibles for the entire set except for 67, which was at 2276. So it was the second lowest output, if I remember correctly, for the 60s. Now, I say that because in 61, remember, that was the new model year, so you probably had some folks holding out because they weren't a fan of the 58, 59, and 60 as much, but certainly a lot of people will tell you the 61 is their favorite year. We can see it does have some custom interior. They mentioned who did it. We've got a Colorado custom steering wheel. These things are not cheap. I want to say around several hundred, if not $1,000 for one of these. We could see the decoded digital gauges. We could see, again, the custom interior. Again, I totally get it's not going to be for everyone, but I do believe this one's going to hit the mark for most people. With the engine bay photo that we can see here, it does look like we have some upgraded brakes, so we'll try to see if we see a better photo. It's kind of hard to tell. What we see here on an undercarriage, again, it's on a lift. We see it has a devious customs front suspension, so it has the lower control arms and the single bellow airbags. You've got some standard information here. Again, love bring a trailer. They break all this down. We've got the Sultan white paint with the M code, red interior. Obviously, it has been updated, and this would have been a February 14th build date. B representing AB, so B is the second letter in the alphabet. The second month is February, and of course 14, so 2/14 of 1961. For the 61 model year, of course. We've got a couple of videos, the convertible top. What I want to do is put this on mute. So we've got someone sitting in the car, and actually this one is, I did not skim through it. I don't know what's going on here with my connection. Here we go. But we can see the top working, functioning there. You've got a little bit of a driving video. This is so key. They say a photo is worth a million words or something like that, but a video to me is really where it's at, because it shows you, hey, they're driving on the road at highway speeds, they take their hand off the steering wheel and things like that. One thing I did notice, I do not believe these are, some of you guys could chime in, I don't believe even at 61 that these are the factory mirrors. It does have this mirror on both sides. Of course, the passenger mirror wasn't an option in 61, but this to me looks era specific, or era correct, I think is a better word, a better way to say it. But that's a very minor imperfection, and you could always pick up a mirror if that really was something you wanted to do. We'll hit escape here. We can see that the auto drop functionality, again, I always talk about the importance of this. You could spend several hundred, if not a few $1,000s fixing the auto drops. This is a feature on the convertibles. And of course, when you open the door just like he did, and then when you close it, it's either going to go down or go up. That's a key thing. Contrary to what a lot of people believe, that the top has nothing to do with the windows. So the windows do not go down when the top is put down or up. It's only when you open the doors. There's a knife switch in there. And certainly you could always, if the windows work, you could always put the window down and up from the driver panel, if you will. But there you don't have to worry about it because the auto drops work. So that's a good thing. Now, what I want to do is I want to go through probably not all these photos, but I want to reinforce a few things. Again, what we're seeing so far is it has adjustable suspension, so it's not factory 100%. It has aftermarket wheels that look like, that mirror basically the hubcaps, the wheel covers. Those are made by Colorado Custom. Obviously, the tires aftermarket, so on and so forth. This car is going to appeal to a lot of people that want a slab side Lincoln that, maybe want a few bells and whistles upgraded, okay? There's going to be people that watch this video that say, hey, you should never mess with one of these Lincolns. I totally get it. But I'm here to tell you, people like their custom Lincolns. Now, in addition to what I think that's an A+ with this, is you've got some professional photos. So you've got some really well-lit photos here, to me, that really kind of bring the ambiance of this car. It looks so good. A little bit lower stance, but not super slammed, so to speak. You've got an aftermarket headlamps on it, again, with the wheels and so on. I think it just looks really good. And then you, of course, got the lighting on the inside for the photos. Another thing that sticks out, and this is an easy fix, is, from the factory, the mufflers / resonators, they're not going to hang like this. So if that's not a look that you like, you can always have your local muffler shop kind of tweak that as you may. So again, there's plenty of photos out here. And this gentleman, I believe, again, his name is Raul, that he does just a great job getting out and enjoying the car. That says a lot because we know people that have these cars that they sit all the time. And it's better to put some miles on them to get, the oils and things like that moving, if you will, in the car. We could see, again, it is not perfect, and it's rare that you're going to find a car that doesn't have some blemishes. You could spend time, if you want, re-chroming things and whatnot. But all that's going to add up. I think so far we're seeing a pretty solid car. Again, you got an era correct mirror there, and this is the dog leg area here, but this is the lower portion of the rear door, and I often talk about how there's a little bit of bubbling and things like that oftentimes in that area. Again, they're being upfront on the paint is not perfect. One thing I haven't talked a lot about is this is stainless trim here. However, this little guy here, 6162, you've got the antenna in the rear, and it is in the middle of the peak molding. This is pot metal, so that is why when you see this one piece, it's frustrating that, it was maybe like an after part from Lincoln, but I think that's one area that, this never looks as good on a lot of cars, and it could simply be something that you get re-chromed by someone that does chroming on pot metal, or call the usual suspects like Lincoln Land and just buy one that's in good condition. They did mention there is a tear in the top. You could probably have someone kind of seam this up. Depending on where you live, the top is going to be down the majority of the time. And that's something to be said. You would maybe want to change the top if you trusted someone locally. The carpet in the interior, again, that's going to be aftermarket. No surprise there. It's not perfect in here, and most of these cars aren't. You can see at some point it has been resprayed. Someone asks in the comments about any rust prevention. From what I can see here, it does look pretty good, even under the doors. Again, it is not perfect. My 64 isn't perfect, but I think it's really, really solid from what we're seeing. There may be changes that you may decide on a car like this. Maybe you don't like the interior color, but certainly you go get all of this interior work done. Trust me, it easily could be $10,000 to do all this. We've got the upgraded pedal kit. There's a guy up in Canada, I've talked about it on the podcast before, that makes these really nice kind of high-end pedal kits. If that's not your fancy, you can always change it. You've got the Dakota Digital, the 3 pods. You can change the colors on them, which is super cool. What people most like about them is they work, and when you're driving down the road and you're actually cruising your car, that's a key thing. You've got a newer style stereo. I'm not always a fan of changing out the radio, but certainly this one has that. And then, of course, in 61, you've got the hidden air-conditioned vents. Oh, by the way, it is an AC car. I like that they show a lot of these photos. Even in my cars, these pieces typically are not perfect. You can get them re-chromed and things like that. But again, they're showing some of the detail that I would rather see. The air suspension, of course, is in the back trunk, 61, 62, 63. You've got this kind of angular area here where the spare tire sits. So this is typically where the air tanks will go. You've got your Viair compressor over here, and then you've got another Viair. So typically you're going to have 2 tanks, and you're going to have 2 compressors. We're going to see more lift photos, and we pretty much see what we expect. I zoomed through these just briefly before we got started, and what I see is it looks solid for the most part underneath here. We do see a Devious Customs kit. That's what I always recommend to people. One thing I would call out is it does look like it has a factory alternator, which in this year was actually a generator. So that would be something that you may want to eventually upgrade, but a lot of folks will end up just replacing what was on it. But typically, if you've got compressors pulling, a good amount of, power, and you've got any kind of aftermarket stereo and stuff, the factory generator / alternator typically is going to be something you want to upgrade. But again, that's kind of being a little bit nitpicky. If it works for them, hey, why change it, right? We can see, again, the brake upgrade here. You've got a BaR, BaER high-end components, and of course, that's going to be the proportioning valve, it looks like there, or that could actually be the dual reservoir. It's kind of hard to tell. There is some literature in here as well, which I love, and There's different things, how to install the top cylinders and pumps, bleeding the system, some receipts, if you will, from over the years from what we refer to as the usual suspects, some of the usual folks that you'll end up contacting. Again, I want to reinforce the interior. What you're going to see here is, of course, all the interior's done, the door panels, the dash. You've also got the Lincoln logos in the side. Again, I think a lot of people are going to like this interior, but for those that don't, you can always change it. To get a convertible that has some of the work done in it, it's not a cheap car. So this car being at $40,000 already is no surprise. What I would say is overall it's 61, very desirable year. It has a good look to it. It's custom, but it's not overly done. Maybe the interior isn't your choice, but you can always change that up. It has Colorado custom wheels. It has Devious Customs. I always recommend those products to folks. And to me, him getting out and cruising it, it's also showing that this car was driven. I do want to mention also my friend John at Stinkin' Lincoln. These are his LED kits he sells. I've been working on a video for an install on my car, and this is pretty cool because it adds a little extra lighting back there, kind of that halo effect, if you will. But with that being said, let me know what you think. I don't know Raul other than a couple of phone calls in the past. I recommended that he go on Bring a Trailer, and that's a recommendation I push to everyone because simply trying to sell these cars via social media can be a headache and a nightmare. So I can say congrats for getting it out here. Bring a Trailer, I think it's the go-to place to sell these cars, and I want to know what you guys think. I'm anxious to see what this one's going to sell for. It looks like a very nice car for the most part, but my disclaimer is if you can get eyes on it, if you can get someone to go look at it, that is always best. Of course, these are just my opinions, and I never have a connection to these sellers, and if I did, I would let you know. So, with that being said, take care, everyone. Thanks for the support.